So it's a pleasure to be associated with you. This is the first time that I'm doing a program for you, Ethiraj students and of course the faculty. Without further ado, shall we start off the session today? Okay. I've already been introduced to you. So I am Dr. Deep, and blah blah. Everything else has been said. So I think we'll just skip this slide and keep going. I have an NGO called Topics, and what we do there is basically work with children, both young children and young adults, like most of you here who are attending the seminar today, the webinar today. So our concept is preparing children to face life. So rather than preparing children just to face exams, which is what many education institutions unfortunately seem to be doing today, we feel that is vacuum where the other aspects of life are being left out except the knowledge building, and that's where we come. So on my own personal behalf and behalf of Top Kids, the organization, I'd like to welcome you today for a very special exclusive webinar for Ethiraj College, Chennai. And the topic that we are going to see is about gadgets. So gadgets and us is what I'm saying. So we're not talking about problems of gadgets and all that. We'll see separately. We're just going to talk about gadgets. And from the picture itself, it's very obvious. When I say gadgets, I'm not just talking about the mobile phone or just the laptop. It's a wide gamut of electronic goods that we handle in our day-to-day life, right? So that's what we need to understand. And it's not just the hardware. All those pictures that you saw, that's the hardware, and all the software that goes into it, which is what makes it so versatile and so interesting for people to start using it. Good or bad, we'll see later. But then put together, this hardware and the software put together is what leads us to today's topic, and that's on gadgets. Okay, so although I said I'm not talking about the smartphone or the mobile phone alone, one thing I need to mention, because most of you are all, in fact all of you are psychology department students, a smartphone is said to be a toy that's designed for the lonely inner child hidden deep within each and every one of us. Now in psychology, you will learn this word, inner child. So those who already know about that will be able to understand and grasp it a little better. But even otherwise, the youngsters can know, you can understand. All of us, whatever our age, including me, we have a child deep within us who wants to come out and play and be just natural like a kid. That kiddishness never leaves us. So that inner child is, what should I say, pampered by the smartphone. That's why I call it a toy. A smartphone is a toy. Imagine giving a toy to any child. The first thing the child will do is to, play with it, roll it around. How each child in the same house handles a toy is so different, isn't it? Some children will keep it, preserve it. They'll have the first toy that they had 5 years back. They'll use it, put it back in the place. There'll be another one who will play with it left, right, and center, but never keep it back. There'll be another one who, as soon as they get the new toy, they'll turn it upside down, try to remove the tire and see if the tire comes off. Try to remove the top and see if the top comes off, or try to open the battery compartment to see. The way a toy is handled is so different for each one of us, isn't it? And that's why I said that inner child, your inner child, each one of you has a specific inner child who will handle the toy differently. That is where a smartphone as a toy in your hands is so different. The way X uses it is different from Y, and the reason why sometimes we get scoldings or we are told not to do this and that is because that inner child is a little too naughty. Okay, so that's the concept of this inner child and smartphone. Today, it's a fact of life that we as a society depend upon technology a little too much, isn't it? Even today's webinar is possible only because of this technology that is in our hands. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to meet. Each one of us is in a different place, except for ma'am and I who are here in Madurai. You're all spread out all over the state. How could we have got into a classroom as it is today without this technology in our hands? So it's a fact that we depend a lot on technology. But then it is also something that has given us problems because it has made our lives so much easier and so better, but it also has parallelly paralyzed the way a particular generation, the young generation, thinks and behaves. Now that is where the catch comes, isn't it? That's where we are worried. So the question is, Are we all victims of a very rapidly evolving, fast developing technology? Is that what is happening? Or is it a little different in the sense, instead of being just victims, is it that we we are just what should we call immature users? All of us are users, but the way some of us handle it is a little immature. Yes, this immature use sometimes can lead to problems, and then we become victims. True, but then not all of us are victims straight away. Now, if you take a look at the picture on the right, you will see a picture of an animal on the mobile phone. Can you tell me what it is? Somebody could unmute and just, what is that animal that you see there? What is that mammal?
Blue whale.
Excellent, excellent, good. Okay, that is a blue whale. The reason I have put that up is very simple. Now, as psychologists, as a psychiatrist, and most of us who are working in the healthcare sector, all of us as healthcare professionals have been telling for a long time about the problems that could come up because of technology and gadgets. We have been talking to parents, telling them don't give the sophisticated smartphones to the little ones. Give them an ordinary feature phone. That's good enough. But they won't listen. We tell the parents, we tell the teachers. Large gatherings, we say technology is for us to use, but don't let it fall into kids who are unable to understand its use. They'll get into trouble. But no one was listening till this particular issue came up, the blue whale challenge. That's why I put up the whale picture there. And a couple of years back, we had some young children committing suicide because of this blue whale challenge. And that is when everybody woke up. Yeah? Pardon? Okay, if somebody has unmuted your mobile phones, mics, please mute them for some time. So once this came up and loss of life to young kids was happening in even a small place like Tamil Nadu, that is when everybody woke up. The teacher said no more mobile phones. The police got up and said no, the parents should monitor this. We will monitor how the kids use and all that blah 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 blah. We talk, it's the usual thing. There's something small happens and everybody is hyper. Today, a couple of years down the line, we are back to the old, usual, immature use again, isn't it? So what we should understand is we should learn from experience, right? That's what experience is about. It teaches us something. Now, if you want each problem to come up with fatalities before we wake up once again, that is not being fair. That's not being mature at all. We have had one warning, the blue whale challenge. It has taught us that people can die. Youngsters can kill themselves through using gadgets and technology. Now, all of us, we need to know how to handle ourselves much better now, right? Okay, that's incidental. Now, of course, once that came up, then there are other equally, fatal and with different names and all. And there are last line, Momo, Cinnamon, Choking, Miriam. These are all the recent ones. They're not, all of them involve hurting the person who is using the app. So self-hurting to the extent of killing themselves was what really triggered this discussion about gadgets, the gadget addictions, the problem that come with gadgets use, so on and so forth. Okay, we have crossed that, and today we know we are in a little different genre of games, PUBG, PvP, where you play against unknown players, and here it is a dangerous game because many times there are people who are walking onto the road without looking left and right, getting hit by vehicles, bashing into electric posts. All this is happening. So although these are not actually, fatally designed like the blue whale challenge, here, because of our enthusiasm, we lose ourselves in that game. And because of that, there have been a lot of accidents taking place. So that's what we should understand. So I'll just put up a few names of the games, which some of you might even be using now. These are all the currently used, very actively used games where youngsters are very deeply involved. Okay, right. There are lots of this. There are lots more, but these are the quite common ones. The ones that are more popular, if you can call it that. They come with their own stimulations. They come with their own positives. They come with a lot of negatives too. So that is what we need to understand. Okay, right. Now we have talked about the games. Now, what sort of age group preference is there in using gadgets? Now, 14 to 16, which is the age group we have just crossed, they are more into gaming. So probably you have just crossed that stage. They are more into gaming. Yes, YouTube videos, pornography, and web series is also involved, but more of gaming basically. That's the time when most of the children get a good smartphone in their hands, and then they start getting curious to play, and they get very deeply involved in games. Coming to your age group, which is the next level, we're talking about social media, which is the strong pull or attraction for most of the youngsters today. Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter. So, you can name any number of these social media. And taking selfies, that itself could be fatal. You know how many people die trying to take selfies from dangerous places. So all apparently normal, simple activities can turn dangerous when it is handled immaturely, right? And that's exactly what happens with gadgets and technology. The problem is not with the technology. The problem is not the gadgets. It's in the way we use it or misuse it. Okay, so that's what you should understand. Okay, so why does this happen? This need for gaming and social media attention is, one is peer pressure, especially the teenagers. Like you are driven by something called FOMO. Everything has all these shortened forms. FOMO, that's fear of missing out. So when everybody is doing it, you feel that if you don't have a good smartphone in your hand or you don't play the game, then you're not part of the crowd. You're not part of the gang, as you say. So you feel you're not fitting into the peer group. Another bad example is guys like us. We continue to use phones in the house without realizing that the children, as they grow up, are watching us and learning from us. So a child, after all, learns first from the parents, isn't it? The behavior of the parent. And many a time it is the parents who start this habit of meddling with the phone in the house. And then, of course, it becomes a desire that the child wants to own, and then you know where it takes you. Anyway, so that's just for us to know that there is a slight difference in the way different ages react to technology. Okay, right. Now, social media and digital technology, we know for a fact that for children like you, students, it has a big influence. It plays a major part in your life. True. We're not saying it's bad. It could be beneficial. It is. There are lots of communications and all that stuff that takes place. But unfortunately, the flip side is they can also negatively impact on so many areas of your life: emotions, education, health, behavior, even communication skills. We think a mobile phone or a smartphone is absolutely wonderful for communication. You're able to have thousands of friends on your social media and all that. Sadly, we are mistaken. Okay, so it affects these things on a negative scale, which we'll understand as we go on. Okay, now gadget activity. There are varieties of ways that it impacts on children, youngsters. I'm just naming a few common ones and grouping them into one. The social media. Now, why is it that social media is so popular, and why is it that we as youngsters want to be there all the time? It's because of what's called validation. Those days, if I do something interesting, I go horse riding today, I feel very good about myself. I'm very pleased. I'm satisfied. I go swimming today. After a good swim, I come back. I feel nice about myself. It's not the case today. Even if I put on a new shirt, I want somebody else to validate it for me and say, "Wow, you got a new shirt. Wow, the shirt is fitting you nice." We are now looking for validation from external sources. Inaki, the life that we live in is all about outsourcing, isn't it? Most of the work is getting outsourced from the European countries to us. We are very popular in that way. We are the source of outsourcing. Unfortunately, what happens is our own self-esteem, self-respect, each one of us is outsourcing. Rather than feeling good about ourselves, by ourselves, we expect or we want somebody else to say we are good to feel good. So then what happens is you lose self-control. You have no control over your own self-respect, isn't it? So unless you feel good because you think you are doing something right, how will you be able to feel good when 10 people say yes, you're nice, and 10 don't? Or today the likes and the number of likes makes a big difference in social media. So you do a new activity, you post it online, Instagram or whatever it is, and if the likes are less than what you anticipated, you lose self-esteem. There are 80 people saying wow, but then there are another 500 of your friends who have not responded, and you feel all those 500 don't like me. It's only these 80 that are like me. So maybe the shirt is not good. Maybe what I did is not right. Maybe it is not as good as I thought it was. So even simple joys are lost because we are expecting others to say that it is a happy thing, it's a joyful thing, it's a good thing, right? So that's the social media. Internet, we all know, messengers, YouTube videos, all this is there. Pornography, we already talked about it. We have chat rooms like that. Children get into all these things step by step. Initially, it's only out of curiosity. We understand that. But then once they go in there, they get addicted, and then they get trapped inside. Net compulsion. A compulsion, as psychology students, obsessions, compulsions. Compulsion is an act that you have to do. You are not able to control, right? There are compulsions like gambling, online gambling, where you lose a lot of money. It's just like playing cards those days or gambling those days. Now, only thing is shifted the venue to the online platform. Buying and selling stocks online. Attending a lot of auctions, e-auctions we call them, where you go and try to buy things, unnecessary things. You just try to bid one against the other. It may be a thing that's available for 100 rupees in our city, but there it's a competition. You want to show that you can buy an expensive thing. So what's worth just 100, you end up buying for 500. But then you do not stop there. It has to go on and on. So that's a compulsion. Compulsive shoppers, I think most of us have become compulsive shoppers online. 2 months without going into Amazon, Flipkart, Tata Click, or whatever is your favorite site, you suddenly feel lost. But then we have learned a lot in these days of lockdown. We have learned that we can live with a lot less than what we believed all these years, isn't it? And finally, another compulsion, that is information seeking. And anything and everything you Google and try to get information. And we as doctors have a big problem with this, because when I tell a patient, I think depression irukku, immediately they go home, Google about depression, read everything and say, 2 days later they come and say, how did you prescribe medicine for depression? All the symptoms don't suit me. I don't have depression. What I have is anxiety, sir. All these things happen. So compulsive information seeking many a time leads to a lot of issues. Okay. And finally, of course, gaming, which all of us know about, which we just now talked about, including the blue whale games. So games could be individual, where you just spend a lot of time online playing a lot of games. It could be a group activity, or it could be an unknown group that's involved, like it happens in PUBG. These are some of the addictive gadget activities that have started worrying a lot of healthcare professionals like you and me. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you. Now, the impact can be both ways, isn't it? Any technology has its plus and the minus. So the impact here has its pros and its cons. So we have both sides. So we need to look at both. We cannot, dismiss it as only negative, only a problem, and so on. Okay? Right. Some of the pros, I'm sure all of us are familiar with. We started off with the first thing is easy communication, which is where the whole thing starts. That's how it started, and today communication is in our hands. All over the world, anywhere in the world, we can communicate simply by picking up our phones. And just we talk now about Googling. Anything and everything under the sun is there, available in the online encyclopedias. So knowledge is there. Anytime you want, you tend to go into the gadget to get more knowledge. Most of us are wearing watches. Yes. Now that has become more a fashion accessory than a need or a requirement. I do not know. There are about 100, 200 of you children here today, youngsters who are watching this. Most of you, if not all, are wearing watches. I bet 50% of your watches are not working. The battery has gone down months back. But because it matches the dress that you're wearing today, you're wearing it. Many of us are doing it today because it's more a fashion accessory than a necessity. You want to see the time? Automatically you pick up your smartphone and then see the time. It's come like that. Calculator, the dictionary, of course now with all the health apps that have come up, fitness has become a craze among youngsters and the adults too. So all these things are all fitted into that small little piece of gadget. So a lot of good can be gained from this small piece of electronic wizardry. As a time saver, you're sitting in your house, you are able to book flight tickets, train tickets, anything and everything you want. Shopping you're able to do. We just now talked about online shopping. Banking, now it's in a fingertips. None of us, most of us at least, don't have to go to the bank to go fill up challans and forms and all that. It is right there, so we just find it so easy to finish off all our banking, sending, everything we do through the bank, paying off stuff. The advantages of the gadgets, strategic thinking and creativity, like games, Photoshop. There's so many apps that have come. So we are able to play around with this technology so much, and create our own world. We are able to create our own styles. We are able to create our own avatars, or uh, cartoons, clip arts, whatever you want. So that creative instincts that are hidden in our inner child, if you can call it that, that can be given expression using gadgets. Something that we could not do those days. We had to go to a very technically minded person to help us with that. Here, you can meddle around with the gadget and you can get all that information. And of course, high-tech, high-speed data crunching, which is absolutely essential for governments, big organizations, and so on, medical, engineering, space, financial analysis, analytics about anything and everything. All our politicians cannot live with it. Although they might not know about it, they hire people who do this analytics to plan their strategies and stuff. So there are lots and lots of areas in our life, from our own personal improvement and betterment to application in real life, politics, elections, you call name it, it's all pervasive. So those are the good side of technology. We get a lot of good stuff coming in there. The flip side, where we do encounter a lot of difficulties, is what we're going to see now, because that is what we need to avoid. We're not saying gadgets are bad, as I told you. We need to try to keep us away or escape from this area of gadget issues. So digital activities have made the youth of today very strong in technical skills. None of you have any issue with digital gadgets. You're so comfortable playing around. You're so comfortable handling these things. Whereas the older generation has a lot of difficulty in learning this. We're finding a lot of difficulty in applying it in our real lives. Even now, we want to do the pen and paper method because that's more comfortable as we grow up. But the fact remains that digital activities have done wonders for all of you in your technical field. But unfortunately, it has weakened you in real life skills. Now, what is it that we're saying? Real life skill does not mean getting a big job, earning 2 lakhs in a month, settling down in US or Europe. Okay, that is not what we're. So we just now talked about children using the gadgets to gain a lot of technical skills, but unfortunately, the real life skills is where I said we have little issues. Simple, ordinary things like bad grammar. Can you imagine that? We think with the encyclopedia in your hand. Those days we had to go to the library to pick up a dictionary and read. Now everything is there in that small gadget that we carry around every day, but you have a problem with grammar. You're doing worse in your spelling, grammar, and communication because of the use of jargon, emojis. The shortcuts that come so much. So a lot of grammar has disappeared. Communication has become more basic. So there is an argument. This communication is to get the point across, right? What I want to say, and you should be understood to all that communication. That's at the very basic level. Grammar makes it more, deeper, and every the sort of words you use can make such a big difference to the person who is reading it. It brings up imagination. Those who are in the habit of reading good storybooks, older classics, as you read, you are transported to that world itself. That's the language, the power of the language. Unfortunately, with all these shortcuts, the language, the beauty of the language, the depth of the language, the creativity and the imagination that it could trigger in a person's mind, all that's disappearing. So simple things like grammar, spelling, digital technology and social side, not only because of the previous problem, but also because of the spell check and autocorrect. So we don't even bother to learn the right spelling. As you type, if there's a problem, it's going to give you an autocorrect option. You click on the right option and keep going. So even small things like grammar and spelling and language, unfortunately, is being affected by the gadget technology. Okay. Now, how badly are we attached to the gadgets? They say it's about 58% of us, which means half the group that is watching this webinar, cannot go for 1 full hour without checking their phone. I do not know. It's now probably 15-20 minutes since we started. I don't know how many of you went to take a look at the SMS and your WhatsApp and your Instagram. You must have done it, I'm sure. And that's what they say. And look at the age group. The age group that is doing this maximally is 18 to 34. which means it's the age group that we are all talking about, you, right? Okay. Now, what are the warning signs of what we call as immature use of gadgets? One, you prefer to stay by yourself. So you find that you're absolutely content, happy with your mobile phone in your hand and a room that has an AC or a fan which is keeping you comfortable. Timely meals. This is enough for you to spend your whole day. You think that's an ideal holiday, probably. Okay. So that is the first sign that you are now becoming more attached to the gadget. Okay. Then you stop interacting with family and friends, and lots of memes and jokes that you say about the parents giving a call or an SMS or a WhatsApp message, say come down, let's have lunch, we're all waiting for you. It's come to the stage, anything and everything goes through the electronic media, nothing goes from the mouth to the ears direct. Okay. Change in your eating and sleeping habit. Many youngsters have got used to starting the day or the night, if you can call it that, after 8:39 and staying awake till 1, 2 or whatever it is, meddling with the gadgets, go to sleep, wake up at 9 or 10, and then argue everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. I went to sleep only at 8, don't wake me before 10. That sort of a thing. So all our cycle, our biological cycles have gone for a 6. Everything has got changed. We take this fast food, keep it with us, keep meddling with the phone, then pop up whatever is near your hand. You don't even enjoy the food that your parents or your mom has cooked or whatever. It's more to just to fill up your stomach. Things have changed like that. In the emotional front, moodiness, lethargy, and irritability are very common finding today. Youngsters are found to be more irritable, more angry young men. Those days we used to talk about angry young men. Today it's all children are generally more angry than they were probably a decade ago. And finally we come to a very sensitive area where this emotional problem has hit us so far, so bad, that our self-worth, self-esteem, and self-respect is all dependent on gadget use and external validation, as I said. And this leads to what's called inferiority complex. That leads to depression, and that can lead to, suicidal thoughts. Excuse me a minute. Yeah, right. If you see here, I was telling you about the small things, including the grammar and the language and all that. There is a finding which says in London, there's not some local paper, in London it says kids are unable to hold their pencils properly because we're used to this all the time, We're used to this. So we're not able to hold a pencil or a pen and write properly. Our handwriting has gone bad. Very little writing at all is there. No one who writes letters these days. Those days, communication was through long letters, whether it was love letters or your leave letter, whatever letter it was all through writing. Today, everything is online, everything is electronic. So we have even lost the writing. At those days, handwriting used to be something we used to compare with other children. Handwriting ku taniya mark kodukkum. They used to reserve marks for the handwriting. And when you see somebody who has written a beautiful, with a beautiful handwriting, it's so nice. When you see it itself, it makes you feel so nice. So, all that has disappeared now because we are so used to gadgets and using them. And that's why we land up with what's called texters. Texters is the texting thumb. Texters neck because you're constantly looking down. This leads to headaches, hand tremors, finger discomfort because of constant misuse of certain joints are overused, isn't it? When you do this, meddling, these joints are all continuously being used, and the others are all free, all that. Okay. So these are some of the issues that come up because of the way we handle the gadgets. Most of us as students, the use of gadgets seems to be more pleasure driven rather than necessity driven. Now, many would not agree with this. How can you say that, sir? We use gadgets only for a proper purpose. Yes, we do watch movies, this and all that, that's fine. But mainly we use it. In fact, that is the reason we would have told your parents and got the mobile phone in the first place. My classes are coming on that, my homework is being given on that, and I have to do my research only on that. Now, these are the excuses you are going to get your mobile. I understand that. That's not the truth. Truth is this. In a city like Madurai, it's not a huge city. We're not even talking about Chennai or Bangalore. In our own Madurai, we had a big study which was done, and watch this. Mobile phones have become a nuisance among students, and 90% of them use them not in a constructive manner. 90% do not use the phones in a constructive manner. That's a sad fact of affairs. So that is why we say, although we may claim that we're using it for studies and all that stuff, yes, but only 10%. Okay, and look up. Only 68 9% could name the country's capital. Indiaவோட capital என்னன்னு சொல்றதுக்கு தெரியல. Where can you claim that your gadgets are making you smarter? How can you say you've got the encyclopedia in your hand? I've got the whole library. The world's library is there. The world's knowledge is in my hand. Having it in your hand doesn't matter, madam. Having it in your brain is what matters. When asked, you can't go on Google and say India's capital. Madam, sir, New Delhi. No, you need to have it here. And that's why you find us Indians in general, we're better at maths, isn't it? Because we have got used to that type of learning earlier. Now, the Westerners are used to using calculators first, and now, of course, these gadgets. So, even small arithmetic, they're not able to do. They need their gadgets even for small arithmetic. Whereas we're able to do like this. One reason why we are doing extremely well in the software and these industries is because of this, the maths. Okay, anyway, that's just for you to know that you having all this information has really not done much for us because we've not utilized that. We've used it for other purposes. Okay, right. Of course, all of us multitask. The catch here as students is when students who are very addicted to smartphones, have to study or probably sit in a webinar like this or prepare for an exam, even while that activity is going on, the academic activity, you're constantly jumping to your social media or jumping to your messages to quickly type out the answer, reply, sit down. So this sort of multitasking goes on, and this naturally reduces the academic performance. We think multitasking is good. We think multitasking is a big skill. It is not. Focused attention and focused task is what gives you the best results, not multitasking. It might sound very nice to say I can handle 3 gadgets at the same time. Fine. But remember, it is not focused attention, and you are not doing justice to all 3 activities. All of them will get them, but in a bad way. Whereas if you're doing one activity, one text, properly writing out a reply to one message, you'll probably use good grammar, you'll write good language, and you'll write properly, one sentence at least. Whereas when you're multitasking, you just want to look at that and say, LOL, finished. You have replied. So you think you're multitasking. What does that convey? It's such a generic response, LOL. It doesn't tell the person reading on the other side that you liked it, whether it's a good joke, whether it's a joke that you and she shared earlier, tells us nothing. So you might multitask, but unfortunately the performance will drop. You must understand it, okay? Juggling between too many things causes a problem. We just now talked about arithmetic. Look at this. This is again that study that went on in colleges or schools and colleges. High school students between 14 and 18, they're high on mobilos generally and low on math. 40% can't find Tamil Nadu on the Indian map. Can you imagine that? And coming to the arithmetic, maths, which I just now talked about, 47% can, only 47 can perform division in percentage, which means 53 are gone. More than half do not know proper division. Subtraction 25%. Okay, these are the ones who are able to do. 75% are problems here. Recognizing numbers, come on. I mean, that is very basic, isn't it? 28%. How sad is it? So, and yet we are all the time looking at numbers, looking at words, looking at alphabets in our gadgets, right? And yet we are not imbibing that knowledge in it because we are multitasking. Okay, right. Now, leaving that academic area aside, now we are coming to a little our side, psychological based side, which is where we are a little interested in. Jealousy and trust issues have started, getting center stage now because of the use of this. And this does not restrict to youngsters like you, not just students. It is happening for middle-aged couples. It's happening for even elderly couples. So lots of families which are going through a lot of issues, breakups, fights, police station, cases, going to the courts. Lots and lots of these things are happening because of the way, the immature way. And remember, maturity has nothing to do with age. So there are lots of middle-aged people and elderly people immaturely using these gadgets. Because we were not born with it, we are just learning it. You at least are born with it, you are growing with it, but in spite of that, because of your immaturity in the sense of lack of exposure to real life, you make mistakes there. The adults, they know about real life, but they don't know about gadgets, and so they make mistakes there. So in the end, it's the same. All of us suffer, so families suffer, and a lot of relationship break. Accessibility, because as we just now said, everything is in your fingertips. Information is there online. You know when the person is online, when the person. So he or she would have said, "I'm feeling sleepy. Good night. I'm going to sleep. See you tomorrow morning," and switched off from you. But you keep tracking, and you know that person is staying online still. So after 15 minutes, you send a message. Hey, you're still online. What are you doing? Who are you chatting with? You understand? So this sort of accessibility and the ability to track is causing a lot of problems. So monitoring goes on, as you can see, increased monitoring and therefore increased jealousy. And lot of relationship jealousy, which is explicit in Facebook, because if I write, I give a like to a girl's post, then my wife feels, why is he liking? Is it for the post or is it for the girl? You understand? So this relationship jealousy start off, and then that can lead to a lot of misunderstanding within the family. The last one is Facebook as a spy itself, where you constantly get addicted compulsively to continuously checking on your friends, not because you want to gain information, but you want to keep track of them, tracking them. That has started happening, and because of that, a lot of misunderstanding, and we say a lot of jealousy. So these jealousy and trust issues are coming up because of easy accessibility and the immature way that we look at relationships, isn't it? That's why we need to check. If you really have a good relationship with X, Y, or Z, there is no reason why you should, doubt them or track them or monitoring them. Yeah, you should be able to accept them as they are. That's one thing. This is a very familiar picture. At least those days when parents were very strict and they wouldn't allow you to handle this after 8:30 or 9:30, you would steal it inside under the bed covers, switch it on, and then start sending. The picture apparently is a normal occurrence in many families, many households throughout the world. But a little close-up will reveal the issue. Same picture, look at the issue. Here, the child is not enjoying the gadget. The child is crying, has a tissue paper in the hand, look at the tears rolling down. So the emotional impact of gadgets can be very clearly seen in a small picture like this, which shows how deeply we are attached to these gadgets and how much they can influence our emotions, as I said, our behavior, our language, everything. Okay, so that's a depth of attachment we have towards these gadgets, which is what we should think a little more about. Okay, right. Okay, now the reason why that lady could be talking could be something like this. My friend is talking to others. She's posting. I'm sorry, I think the picture has come to the front. It has to go back. It's okay. Basically, my friend is talking to somebody else online. So you get upset. She's posting likes for another person, but not posting enough likes and comments on my post. That's another issue. I'm sorry about the picture. It's obscuring. It's okay. That's what's written at the back. And finally, of course, she's not posting pictures of the two of us because we are together. We are, friends or couples or whatever it is. So, enga photos support, adha patti comment panni, and enga relationship patti romba, nice words about our relationship. Adha podama, why is he or she posting pictures about somebody else? So, all these are issues that crop up in gadget use, social media especially, what youngsters should understand. I have written this as a single phrase, anger and video games, as if it's all together. The reason I have put it as purposely, video games is one of the major sources of anger in youngsters. Today, many youngsters have become very impatient. They are not able to control their emotion. They are emotionally unstable, volatile, and the reason is playing many of these video games as a child. Now, if all of you can just think back to the sort of games that youngsters play, or at least started playing, a simple game like a motorbike race. Kids, of course, will love. Boys, they would love to play these motorbike races and stuff like that. Car races, girls too. But whatever is the game that you see today, the most popular games, all of them involve, stage 1, stage 2. You need to cross stage 1 to go to stage 2. And to cross stage 1, you need to beat up people, kill people, isn't it? Disable people, kick them, kill them, shoot them. Everything involves violence. So violence and anger has slowly seeped into our thinking. And morning like class, some teacher tells you ahimsa, Gandhiji, peace is good. Whatever you want to achieve through peace. Don't fight. As children, don't fight with your brothers and sisters. Everything is start for half an hour or 45 minutes model classes in the school. But then you go home in the evening, and for 2 hours you're playing this game where the only thing is to beat or kick or damage the other person and go to the next stage. Kill more number of people, you get a gold coin. That is the incentive that's been drilled into you. So in real life, you translocate that same scenario. என் கிளாஸ்ல நான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வரணும்னா ஏற்கனவே ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வர்ற பையனோட புக்கை திருடணும், ஆன்சர் புக்கை ஐயா தொலைச்சு விட்டுறணும், பரிசனைக்கு பணம் தூக்கிடணும். It sounds silly, but that's happening. That's happening today in every school. We know of young children coming to us and saying, I'm the topper in the class, but suddenly my pen was disappearing on the day of the exam from the examination hall. My geometry box was missing. Teachers come and say, yes sir, we have noticed all this happening. Lunch box is taken off. All these things out of sheer jealousy. So, நான் நல்லா ஆகணும்னா I should improve myself in a concept போயிட்டு நான் நல்லா ஆகணும்னா அடுத்தவனா கீழே களவாடிடும். That is unfortunately very, very sad lesson that we have learned through the video games. I do not know how many of you would agree with this. Those who play these video games, those who have been handling it, will know that this is the truth. That is the source of many of our youngsters learning to associate winning with doing anything that you can. எதை செஞ்சாலும் பரவாயில்ல. How you win doesn't matter. Winning is all that matters. Any means. Those days it was not like that. You need to win now, you need to win fair and square. You would not be allowed to, use other methods, cheating. Today all that's accepted. Sir, I'm mark பண்ணேனா இல்லையா சார், அதெல்லாம் விடுங்க. காப்பி அடிச்சேன், ஆமா பிட் அடிச்சேன், ஆமா. So what? I got marks. Today I'm doing medicine. And they're proud of it. They're proud of it. But how much of moral damage it has done to their own mind, you should realize, isn't it? So that's what happens. So their behavior till they die will be like that. Anything and everything, they look at it plus or minus. How do I get the plus? How do I win? So that's a permanent scar in your brain. But unfortunately, it's happening. So it's now again telling youngsters because you are going to be the parents next. So நம்ம என்ன தப்பு பண்ணோம், that's fine. At least when you become parents, please be very careful. Before you buy a video game from the arcade and give to your child, see it. Check. என்ன மாதிரி games இருக்குன்னு. Games are harmless, Tetris, simple games, wonderful, no problem. But if it involves violence, please do not give it. It is not a good way of bringing up your child. The child's psychological framework completely changes for the worse. Okay? Right. So now we come to the big question. Now all those problems that we have been talking about happens, the cons. The negatives happen only when you get addicted. Not just casual use doesn't give you all those problems. So when you get addicted, all these things happen, right? So how do you know you're addicted? Now there is a professor called Dr. Griffith. He has given us 6 components to detect if there is gadget addiction. So just because somebody is playing with a gadget for half an hour doesn't make him an addict. Okay? So there need to be 6 areas where the child has to show certain signs. One is salience. When you say salience, it means my mind is completely dominated by that one thought. எப்படா வீட்டுக்கு போவோம், எப்படா இது எடுத்து வருவோம், எப்போ கிளாஸ் முடியும் உடனே எடுத்து நோண்டி பார்க்கலாம், எப்போ டீச்சர் அந்த பக்கம் திரும்பாங்க ஒரு மெசேஜை பார்க்கலாம். So all the time you are thinking of that particular activity day and night. So that is salience. Your thoughts, your behavior, feelings, everything is dominated by needing to go back and use the gadget. Okay, that's salience. The second is mood modification. When you use that gadget, electronic gadget, whatever it is, it could be a laptop, it could be iPad, whatever. When you use it, it gives you a good feeling, it gives you a high, it gives you a buzz, you feel excited. Or it is a way of escaping. You're feeling sad, you're feeling angry with somebody, you go start meddling with this because it takes your mind off. It's those days you would say they'll go and smoke or drink to forget that. That sort of a mood modification. So your mind can even go numb with just continuously playing a game, isn't it? So that's what we mean. Second point. Third is tolerance. And tolerance is a word, as psychologists you will know, it is something we use with all addictions, alcohol, smoking, whatever. What starts off with that one small dose being enough to give the expected high is not enough after 5 days. You need to give a little bigger dose. The dose has to be higher to get the same level of excitement. So that is the tolerance. So slowly your requirement for the gadget keeps on increasing. The happiness you got with 10 minutes of playing a game 2 years back, today it requires 1 hour. 10 minutes is simply not enough. That's tolerance. Okay. And the fourth is withdrawal. When, for whatever reason, the gadget is taken away from you. It could be because it's gone bad and gone to the workshop. It could be because there's a problem and your parents confiscated it and took it away. Whatever is the reason, if the gadget is taken away from you for whatever reason, you go into physical and psychological, emotional problems. Physically shaking, angry, irritable, you're constantly on edge, you're simply not your usual calm self. Just because the gadget is not within your grasp. Okay, that's withdrawal. Then next is conflict. Now, this is an interesting area because we think we have control over ourselves. We think we are good. We think we have control over our gadgets. We say, sir, I'm not an addict. I have full control. All this is fine to say. But what really happens is, if in this area there is domination of the gadgets, you will have problems in all these areas. Job, because if while you are working, you are meddling with this, people are not going to be happy. The ones who employ you will not be happy, isn't it? And interpersonal. Again, when you are talking to somebody and suddenly you take your phone and just see, and then you send a reply, and then it simply means that person will feel I am not respected. That child is respecting that phone or the message from whoever it is. That person more than he or she likes me or respects me. Why should I talk? I'll walk away if that happens to me. Because your importance is there, not here. Your thinking is here. Your salience, as we said, is here. Right? So interpersonal relations gap. And the third is the more deadly one. It is within self. Conflict can happen within your own mind. You know you're making mistakes. All of us do make mistakes. You know you're making a mistake. You know you're looking at things you should not be looking. You know you're doing things online which you should not be doing. And that happens within you itself, conflicts start. So when your mind is in turmoil, conflicts, you know how restless you will become, isn't it? It doesn't require a third person at all. Within yourself, when you're not at peace, conflicts will come up. I'm just going to show you a slide, which is a real poster that has been put on one of the shops here. Okay, see this. Android phone use pannada pasanga velaki thevai. Can you imagine that? Things have come to such a pass that if you want to get employed in my shop, I will not let anybody who has an Android phone in the hand. I told you, conflict in jobs and available. That's how bad this addiction has spread. Okay, right. Sixth point, of course, is relapses. Just like with any other addiction, whether it's smoking or drinks or any alcohol, whatever it is, relapses. So, with probably your own self-control, or with the help of your friends or your family who says, whatever it is, for some reason you are able to get out of it. But many times, those who are getting addicted to this will not be able to stay off the gadgets for too long. One day, 1 month, 1 fortnight, whatever it is. They go back and then immediately they go back to the same level of continuous use as before. So, நான் 10 நாள் விட்டுட்டேன், அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் தொட்டேன்னா அடுத்து தொட்டையில் அதுதான் பிரச்சனை. விட்ட மாதிரி இருந்துச்சுன்னா then you're not an addict. பட் நான் விட்டுருக்கேன், நடுவில் வந்து 15 நாள் விட்டுருக்கேன். இதை ட்ரிங்க்ஸ் பண்றவங்க நம்ம சொல்லுவாங்க, சார் ஐயப்பன் சீசனுக்குலாம் நான் மாலை போட்டேன்னா 1.5 மாசம் சாட மாட்டேன் சார். அப்புறம் மாலை கலட்டுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி இது எங்களுக்கு பார்த்துட்டு மாலையவே கலட்டுவேன். What's the point? What's the point? Who are you cheating? You're cheating yourself, isn't it? You're not cheating God. He knows what you're doing. Who else are you cheating? மாலைக்காக நான் 1 மாசம் இருந்துட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் 11 மாசம் நான் குடிக்கிறேன்னா what nonsense is that? So if you're able to stop for good. If you're going back, then you're an addict. And no one likes to be called an addict, right? So gadgets, remember this. I'm telling you not about alcohol, I'm telling you all about gadgets. So if you think you're not able to stay off gadgets for too long, it means, like it or not, you're getting addicted to it. Try to back off. Okay? So just for it now, these are the 6 areas or components that Professor Griffith said you must look into these. இதுல ஏதாவது இருக்கு எல்லாத்துலயும் இருந்தால்தான் you call it addiction. இது இல்லைன்னா you don't have to worry. Okay? Just use or நிறைய நேரம் யூஸ் பண்றது doesn't make a difference. Okay? Right. So how much is too much? உங்க அப்பா அம்மா கேட்டா எப்ப பாரு இதுக்குள்ள நோண்டிட்டே இருக்கு, போன்லயே நோண்டிட்டு இருப்பாங்க. நீ என்ன சொல்ல, சார் 15 minutes சார், ஸ்கூல்ல இருந்து வந்தேன் சார், காலேஜ்ல இருந்து வந்தேன் சார், வந்து மூஞ்சி கழிட்டு 15 minutes எடுத்தேன் சார், உடனே சொல்றாங்க. So how much is too much? It all depends on the person looking at it. Yeah, what is too much for you, for them may not be too much for you, right? So okay, so there are many ways of individually looking at it. See if you can answer this simple question. Can you go 1 week without your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever? Can you do that? Can you go 1 week without video games? Can you go 1 week without internet connection at all? If you can, then you're not too much. you're not using it too much now. Yes, can you go one day without your mobile phone? One day without your smartphone? You think you can? I'm happy. If you think you cannot, ஒரு ஒன்றும் இல்லை, ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு ஹேங் ஆயிருக்கும், ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் ஆயிருக்கும், அதை நம்ம காலையில கொடுத்து அவன் சாயந்தரம் கொடுக்குறேம்மா, அதுக்குள்ள நம்ம படுற பாடு என்னன்னு தெரியும்ல உங்களுக்கு. எவ்வளவு ஸ்ட்ரெஸ், எவ்வளவு டென்ஷன், அடுத்தவங்க பிடிங்க, அதை நோக்கி we do all that stuff, isn't it? There is a name for this, where you cannot live or we cannot manage your time without mobile phone. அதுக்கு பேர் தெரியுமா? Unmute whoever knows the answer, give me your answer. What is it called? There's a word for this. Inability to go without your mobile phone for a long time. Anybody? Can you hear me?
Is this again homo?
No, this is called nomophobia. No mobile phobia.
Yeah.
The fear that you're not going to be online and connected, that's nomophobia. Okay, so there's a word for it too. And the thing is, this nomophobia, or the inability to stay off gadgets, is on the rise among today's school students and college students. Okay, to the extent that many colleges even take it to the shower. Of course, initially it sounded very funny when people, even adults, used to take the mobile phone in the morning when they go to the loo. அதுவே ஒரு பெரிய கேலியா இருந்தது. But now that has become common. Everybody does it in the Now college students have learned to wrap it in plastic so that it doesn't get wet and take it to the shower. I mean, to that extent, even those 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you're going to have a shower, அதை நிம்மதியாக அந்த தண்ணியை விட்டுட்டு சுகமாக அப்படியே stand under the water, let it go, feel the water flowing, the body cooling down. அந்த எந்த ஒரு அனுபவமே கிடையாது நமக்கு. You're not even able to enjoy the experience that you get standing under a shower and switching it on and just standing and enjoying the shower. அது கூட கிடையாது. We are still looking at this. தண்ணி நல்ல தண்ணி வருதா அழுத்த தண்ணி விழுதான்னு கூட தெரியாது. அந்த அளவுக்கு நம்ம போயிட்டோம். That's what's happening today. That's a bad sign, isn't it? Okay. The average adolescent is with this. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. Average adolescent is willing to lose a finger than a cell phone. எனக்கு விரல் எடுத்தாலும் பரவாயில்ல, எனக்கு செல்போனை கையில இருந்து கொடுக்க கூடாது. That's the extent of involvement we get into gadgets, and that's why we call it an addiction. Okay. In India, about 50% of the youngsters in India are addicted. And big cities, it is above 70%. Above 70%. Normally, on an average, it's 50% of all Indian children are addicted, which means they come under the 6 components of Griffith's classification. Not just addiction itself. So that's a study that says it's like that. Okay. Now, number timer every day. There are 3 thieves that are eating up your time. Therinjo theriyamalo, you are doing this. And those 3 fellows are texting, talking, entertainment. Entertainment, watching videos or whatever it is. If you calculate in one day, 24 hours, like how much of time you spend on these 3 activities, you will realize that without your knowledge, time has disappeared from your life, and it goes for good, isn't it? Time is one thing that goes for good. It doesn't come back. You can't regain that time ever in your life. Every second that goes like this is gone. The life and the time cut. And these are the 3 thieves who are maximally doing damage. Unfortunately, we are not. And yet we do not realize it. It comes as a shock when you calculate. Sit today, if you can, tonight, and just work out these 3 areas of gadget use and see how much of time in a day you are spending on this. Okay, so these are considered the 3 thieves of time, and that's a huge chunk of a human life, isn't it? A lifetime. Okay, so those are all the psychological and language related issues that we talked about. Some of the physical effects, just a few that you can see. This again is a study in Germany where this is children as young as 3 have sleep related problems because of gadget use. Now all of us know we all have sleep related problems because of gadgets. We sleep late, we get up late, all that is happening, But here, even children as young as 3 have problems like this because of high electronic use. Okay. Now, there's something called a VDT syndrome. As psychology students, it's just for you to know, where because of the constant looking down and texting and stuff like that, there is discomfort in the neck, the upper extremities, and the back. So these are the areas that are constantly stressed, isn't it, when you're doing all these things. So these three areas could be affected, and that's called visual display terminal syndrome. So for that, scientists recommend regular rest periods, stretching, exercises, and I've added one more that's called blink. Simply blink. When you are on screen, TV, laptops, desktop, whatever it is, we tend not to blink. One reason, of course, is just habit. Second reason is we don't want to miss anything that's happening there. We think even if you blink, and the blink level miss பண்ணிடுவோம். ஸோ அந்த அளவுக்கு நமக்கு வந்து அந்த ஒரு கண்ணை பிரச்சனை வச்ச கண் வைக்க எடுக்காமன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. அந்த மாதிரி we watch any screen that you're watching, isn't it? So because of that, your eyes dry up and you lose a lot of vision and a lot of visual problems. I have not brought it in here because that's one separate set of visually related problems that happen because of screen use, screen exposure. Okay, so that's a separate thing. So blink very frequently, at least once a minute. Just consciously make a blinking effort, 2 or 3 blinks, and then continue to watch. Don't just keep watching like this without blinking. Okay, right. Finally, we come to one controversial but definitely problematic area of use, especially when you're using the phone against your ear like this. Of course, that's where we use the phones and all that. But electromagnetic waves from that, whatever is the source, is deadly. You must understand that. So WHO and the International Agency for Research on Cancer has made a clear suggestion that strong evidence is there to put it into what is called a 2B. Don't worry about that. But that classification says it is carcinogenic to humans. That means it can cause cancer. Now, easy to argue with me, sir. அப்போ வந்து இப்போ யூஸ் பண்ணவங்கலாம் கேன்சர் வருமா சார்? அப்போ வந்தவங்களுக்கு சொல்லுங்க சார், 2 பேருக்கு சொல்லுங்க சார், யாருக்கு சார் கேன்சர் வந்துருக்கு? I'm not here to argue. This is evidence. It can happen to you after 10 years. So for the first 10 years, you will not get cancer. But when you get it in the 11th year, you're going to die. If you're happy with it, go ahead. We are still not saying don't use it. When I say effect of electromagnetic wave, it means constant, long-term use. If you use a call as you would to your parents, Amma, எப்படி இருக்கீங்கம்மா, சாப்பிட்டீங்களாம்மா, சரிம்மா, தூங்கிட்டீங்களா, எதுக்கு ஃபோன் பண்ணீங்க, ஓ இதுக்கு தானா, சரி சரி நாளைக்கு சாயந்தரம் வந்துடுறேன்னா, ஓகே ஓகே, ஒன்றும் இல்லைல்ல, ஓகே. This is the call that you usually make to your parents, correct? Half a minute, max 1 minute. But the call you make to your friend, என்னடா இன்னைக்கு என்ன நடந்துச்சுன்னு கேட்டா 1.5 மணி நேரம் ஒண்ணுமே நடந்திருக்காத விஷயத்த ஒண்ணுமே இல்லாம பேசிருக்கீங்க. That is the electromagnetic waves I'm talking about. The phone is supposed to be used for communication, correct? It is used very useful for sending messages up and down, fine. You do it for the purpose, no problem. You simply sit there and chat. Many of you put it like this, lie down on the pillow so that it's constantly there. Sollu, இப்படியே போயிட்டு இருக்கோம் இல்லையா? That is the danger. Okay, so it's not how you use it, it's more how you use it than whether you use it or not. So please understand, we have clear evidence of problems. So whether it will happen to you, I do not know. But can it happen to you? Definitely yes. Please be careful. Do not have the gadget close to your ears, close to your brain, basically close to the skull for a long time. That's the message, isn't it? Okay. Now, how quickly you see about some ways to break your addiction. I'm sure most of us are addicted to this. I keep meddling with my mobile phone. So it happens to all of us. So once you realize you're addicted, we should be able to take a conscious decision to get out of it. 1, leave aside your mobile or gadget for a few hours every day. It's your own plan. Don't expect anybody to do it. You decide from today, every day evening after 9, I will not touch the phone. Or afternoon between 3 to 5, although I am free, I will not use it. You know the free time when you are likely to use the gadget for a long time. You, out of your own self-discipline, fix a time of 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. That's left to you. Start off like that. Stay off the gadget for that limited time. Once you learn to do that, then during the weekends, during the holidays, you'll be able to do this break for a longer and longer period. So there will be less radiation, less eye exposure to the gadgets and the screens and so on and so forth. So multi-dimensional benefits will come to you. And those 2 hours when you're not doing this, you're going to be talking to somebody is going to be talking to you, or at least you're going to be sleeping, which is much better than watching the screen. Okay, so anything goes. Try to avoid screen time as much as possible. Spend more real time with your family and friends. So that can happen only if you do number 1 and 2, isn't it? As long as you're fully occupied with your gadget, you simply have no time. சாப்பிடவாமா ஆறு இந்த வந்துட்டு நல்லா 2 நிமிஷமா வந்துட்டேமா, that 2 நிமிஷம் go on for 15-20 minutes. சாப்பாடுலாம் ஆறி போய் வந்து இட் அஃபெக்ட்ஸ் த ஹோல் செயின் இல்லையா. ஃப்ரெஷ்ஷா அம்மா அப்பா கூட உட்காந்து சிரிச்சு பேசி சுட சுட சாப்பிடுறதுக்கும், அரை மணி நேரம் ஆற வச்சு போய் வயிற்று நடத்துறதுக்காக சும்மா அள்ளி போட்டுட்டு டேஸ்ட் இருக்கோ இல்லையா சும்மா வாயிலுக்கு போட்டுட்டு நானும் சாப்பிட்டுட்டேமா அப்படின்னு சொல்றதுக்கும் எவ்வளவு வித்தியாசம் இருக்கு இல்லையா. ஸோ ஸ்பெண்ட் மோர் ரியல் டைம் வித் யுவர் ஃபேமிலி அண்ட் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ். தட் இஸ் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். Learn to enjoy outdoor activities. Now, this is where very common difference that we find from those children, that is the older children. This Sunday na முந்தினா பிள்ளைங்க வீட்டில் இருக்க மாட்டாங்க. ஹாலிடேனா வீட்டில் பிள்ளைங்களை வீட்டில் பார்க்க முடியாது. காலையில போனவங்க சாயந்தரம் அழுக்கு மூட்டையை வீட்டுக்கு வருவாங்க, அதுக்குன்னு திட்டுவாங்க, அடி வாங்குவோம், நாள் பூரா சுத்திட்டு வரீங்களேன்னு. டுடே ரூம்ல இருந்து வெளியே பிள்ளையே எடுக்க முடியல. You are all the time with the gadget inside 4 walls. Get outdoors. சண்டே எல்லாம் ரோட்ல போக முடியாது, எல்லாம் கிரிக்கெட் விளையாண்டுட்டு இருப்பாங்க, பசங்க கில்லி தண்டா விளையாண்டுருப்பாங்க, கோலி விளையாடுவாங்க. அஃப்கோர்ஸ் இட் மைட் லுக் லைக் சில்லி கேம்ஸ் டு யூ. More than the type of game, it was the camaraderie that developed, the team spirit, the learning to win and lose. The lessons that these games teach you are lots more than just winning the game itself. There's a lot of other benefits that you learn about life when you play games with a lot of people. தனியாக உட்காந்து நம்ம ரூம்ல உட்காந்துருக்கோம், all that is gone. You lose out on all those learnings, life skills. அதான் முதல்ல ரியல் லைஃப் ஸ்கில்ஸ் நிறைய போகுதுன்னு சொன்னேன்ல. These are all real life skills we have lost because we do not play outdoors with other children. Okay, right? And engage in hobbies. Now, how many of you have hobbies? Have at least learnt about hobbies? Hobbies na enna? Sad part, hobbies na என்னன்னு நிறைய பேருக்கு தெரியாம போச்சு இப்போ. Many youngsters do not have any other hobbies, probably except playing with the gadget. There are no other hobbies. இதெல்லாம் சும்மா தீப்பெட்டி டப்பா, marbles collect பண்றது, all sorts of weird things children used to do. But all those things taught real life skills in so many ways. Without hobbies, you will find that you have nothing else to fall back upon except your gadget, isn't it? So even if you have not done it so far, please pick up a hobby. It could be music, painting, books, cycling, swimming, anything under the sun. But it should be under the sun, meaning outdoors and on away from gadgets. Look for a hobby like that. It could even be reading, because that's a very beautiful hobby which we have lost. Children have stopped reading as a hobby. The book reading parakame poichu. So that is a wonderful hobby too you can do. So any of these things, pick up one of these hobbies, see what suits you best, pick it up today and start developing that hobby first. You will find your life is fuller, richer for that. Okay. And finally, the most important thing that you need to break gadget addiction is people and more people. The more people you have in your life, the more people you are directly interacting face to face, the more chances of you getting out of gadget addiction. Okay. So what is the magic mantra? How do we get out of this? Stop interfacing with machines, which is what we do wonderfully well these days, isn't it? We are very good at this. Please stop interfacing with machines and do what? Start interacting with people. That is the magic mantra, because that is what is going to really bring you out of the addiction. And not only that, it's going to really bring you out of the 4 walls, out of the small screen in front of you, and out into the wide open world, which has thousands and thousands of wonders waiting for you to discover and enjoy. If you're not doing today, you're doing it in a virtual way. It's like looking at a beautiful picture of biryani, a plate of biryani, and saying, "Wow, look at that!" and having the plate of biryani in front of you and eating. Which would you prefer? It makes no sense to say, "I've seen so many beautiful plates of biryani. I know it's wonderful." Stupid, isn't it? Even one mouthful of a real biryani is what really gives you the taste. Correct? That is real life. Real life is waiting for you. Real biryani is waiting for you outside your gadget. Come out and you'll find life has a lot more to offer. Look at this picture. I want some of you to unmute and tell me who this is. Anybody?
Sushant.
Exactly. Now, you know what happened to him recently, isn't it? Yes? What happened?
Yes, sir. Suicide.
Exactly, he committed suicide. Now look at this. This gentleman, successful actor, he had 9.8 million followers on Insta, 1.8 million followers on Twitter. ஓகே, நம்மலாம் 500 1000 5000 வந்துச்சுன்னா பெரிய பிஸ்தான் நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்கிறோம். Look at the numbers he has got, and yet he was alone. He felt lonely. He had millions of people behind him following him, but he felt lonely. Let that thought sink in. Virtual world is a fake. Please understand this. Remember this one picture that you're seeing here, the slide. Remember this gentleman who had almost 10 million people saying, "Who are you? Are this, you are that," but he felt so alone that he killed himself, isn't it? Remember that. That is real life. It is what you should understand and get out of this addiction, if at all you are involved in it already. What you should be doing is this: getting out into the real world, enjoying your life, jumping with joy, running around, meeting people, making friends. People. More number of people. This is the foundation of happiness. This is the real base of real happiness and real life. Thank you very much for a very patient hearing. I hope you could follow me, and I hope you could see what was happening and probably understand a little bit about the plus and the minus of gadgets. Now, those who would like to talk to me or ask me doubts or whatever, please unmute and you can ask your questions. Okay?
I call participants to raise a few questions to sir. You can also put in your questions in the chat box.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, tell me, ma.
I have a doubt. So this is a situation where we have to depend upon gadgets and we're not able to meet so many people. So how can we break down gadget addiction in this situation?
Yeah, you used the word. You said we have to use gadgets.
We are not able to get out of our houses and meet several people because of this pandemic situation. Yeah.
Okay. See, exceptions make the rule. We are having this webinar only because we can't have a real class. We have a virtual classroom because we don't have a real classroom. Now, these are times when
I'm not talking about seminars and classes happening, sir.
No, I understand. Meeting your friends is what you are talking about. So these are times when we have to depend on technology to keep the communication open, to see people, to say hi, because I'm in one place, you are in one place. Perfectly all right, but that is not addiction, isn't it? That is actual mature use of the technology in your hands.
But when we see this time, during this time of children's in our houses itself, they get addicted within a short span of time to a game or using gadgets.
I just heard you say children. Who are you talking about? Children?
Not like my brothers and sisters, I'm saying.
Okay, how old are they?
10th standard. They use 10th standard.
10th, is it?
Yes.
Okay, 10th standard. So we are talking about somebody who's in the 15s, isn't it? 15, 16 age, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So how did they buy that electronic gadget? How did they afford it?
No, they had their online classes for their exams to be prepared. So they had given gadgets with mobile numbers, internet, all those. So now we are using it after that also.
Yeah. So if we have given it, it is our duty to monitor its use. Right?
Yes.
Okay. A child, for example, a child asks for a knife. Okay. Now all of us have knives in our house. Yes or no?
Yes.
Kitchens have 2 or 3 knives, bread knife, this knife, that knife. So it's not something sophisticated. It's there in each and every house. When a child asks for a knife, the child is now 2 years old. Will you give it?
Not advisable to give it.
Not advisable. When the child is 10 years old,
yeah, you can give them, but telling them all the precautions how to use it.
Exactly, isn't it? And 18 years old,
they might have already been experienced and exposed to it, so we can obviously give them.
Still have to say a little, be careful. Some instruction is given and given, isn't it?
Yes.
So your child is using the phone, your brother, sister, whatever. Please, according to their age, instruct them, guide them. They do not know what is right and wrong. You, as a senior, know that, isn't it? So நம்ம ஒண்ணுமே சொல்லாம கையில கொடுத்தா, like a knife, it can cut both ways. Yes, it can be used for something useful, it can be used for something very destructive.
Yes.
Catch here is the person giving the gadget must do what he or she is supposed to do responsibly. You will not give it to a 2-year child. You will give it to a 10-year-old child with instructions, clear instructions. You will give it to an 18-year-old child with a few instructions. Hey, ரொம்ப டைம் எடுக்காத, கொஞ்ச நேரத்துல கொடுத்துரு, வேஸ்ட் பண்ண, டைம் வேஸ்ட் பண்ணாத. At least that, isn't it? That's all. So tell the child, have a chat with the child and tell the child, look, this is what happens when you sit with the mobile or whatever it is for long. You wanted it for your studies. We have given it to you. Use it to the max for that purpose, no problem. But then don't waste your time doing all the other browsing and all that. Once you are finished with your studies, give it back to us. So you need to, have some ground rules in the house. Talk to the child. Give it on condition. Okay, or 15 minutes. Take it, half an hour கழிச்சு நான் கொடுப்பேன். It's 9 o'clock now. 9:30 I'll ask you should give. You should not refuse. Conditionally கொடுத்து பழக்குங்க. There will be absolutely no problems. When the children not given instructions, சும்மா கையில கொடுத்துட்டு ஒரு 2 மாசம் 3 மாசம் கழிச்சு you find the child is all the time notifying, hey, உனக்கு ஒரு வேலை இல்லையா, இதை வச்சுக்க விளையாண்டுட்டா, அப்போ நம்ம சொல்லும்போது the child gets hurt and the child is not able to accept what you are saying because you have not said it is wrong before. 6 மாசம் கழிச்சு இது தப்புன்னு சொல்றீங்க, நீங்க அன்னைக்கே தப்பு, இது இப்படி செஞ்சா தப்புமா, இதெல்லாம் செய்யக்கூடாது, ஸோ இதுக்கு மட்டும் யூஸ் பண்ணணும்னு அன்னைக்கே சொல்லியிருந்தா the child will understand why you are getting angry with the child. புரியுதா?
Okay, sir.
So that's the thing. So whenever you start off using something, giving something to the children, please remember this. And I'm talking not just to your sisters. Now, future, you're going to have children of your own. Please remember, don't start giving it. Namma convenience kaga gadgets kudu palakitom. We want our child to be quiet when we are doing our reading. We want a child to be quiet when we are doing the cooking or when I'm watching my favorite TV show. So இதை போட்டுட்டு இருந்தா நீ கார்ட்டூன் பார்த்துட்டு விளையாண்டுட்டுன்னு சொல்லி பழக்கிறதுனால children get addicted very early on in life. Please don't do that. That's irresponsible, immature behavior from us. We should not use gadgets for surrogate parenting. Parenting has to be by you, not by a surrogate. You can't outsource parenting. எதெல்லாம் outsource பண்ணலாம், parenting outsource பண்ணக்கூடாது இல்லையா?
Yes, sir.
So that's what has happened. We have got used to that habit of switching on the TV, பார்த்துக்கிட்டே இருக்கும்போது வாயில சாப்பாடு திணிக்கிறது. இப்படி எல்லாம் இந்த கேட்ஜெட்ஸை வேற மாதிரி தப்பா யூஸ் பண்ணி நம்ம கன்வீனியன்ஸுக்கு மிஸ்யூஸ் பண்ணி பழகிட்டதுனால இப்போ குழந்தைங்க அதை மிஸ்யூஸ் பண்ணுறது நம்மளால ஏற்றுக்க முடியல. We are not able to correct it because they have seen you do it first. So when you say it is wrong, they simply don't accept it. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello.
Yes, Master.
Sir, I have been I have been dealing with gadget addiction. I am an only child in my family, and I have both parents working. So it is very difficult to interact with people. And then I want to break this cycle, but I have been unsuccessful so far. I recognize that I have this addiction.
That's a wonderful thing, because the first step in improvement is recognition of your own issues, isn't it? The fact that you know that there is a problem will certainly help you, motivate you to come out of this much better. You said you're not able to get out of it. Parents are working. So where is the catch now? You are not able to go out and meet because of the pandemic? So somebody asked a question earlier.
Yes, I have not been able to go out anywhere. I have not been able to meet even the kids in my own neighborhood, whom I used to play with earlier. But now everybody is so scared to send the kids out that I have not.
This is your pandemic-related issue. The past 2-3 months you're talking about.
Yes,
right?
yes. Before, during normal life, I had a proper routine where I went to college, came back to home.
This isolation and the quarantine has sort of got you addicted to it. I think
Yes.
it's happened in many houses. Adults and children have got sort of used to gadgets too much, sitting at home all the time. Once you know there is a problem, once you are able to keep yourself occupied otherwise, meaning now that things are getting relaxed, where are you now?
Sir, I am in Chennai, sir.
Chennai. So you can't even step out of your house. It's not
sir.
safe.
And we have positives exactly
Positives all
near
around
us,
you.
sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So that that is there. So then the physical contact is going to be delayed some more. That's for sure. So you need to look at alternatives. You can go to your, it doesn't spread in the air like pollen dust. It doesn't spread like that, isn't it? So you can spend a lot of time on the roof. That is your terrace on top. Automatically, you can do your walking, cycling, do something where you see more of the world rather than staying within 4 walls. Go for a walk in the morning upstairs, beautifully on top, and do it again in the evening. From here, you can talk to the neighbor across the other terrace. Things like that, where it is not virtual, it is real, and at least it is better than not being able to see them at all. Rather than go through the virtual meet and எங்க இருக்கீங்க அடுத்த ரூமா அடுத்த வீட்டுல இருக்கீங்களாங்கிறத மாடிக்கு வாங்க நானும் மாடிக்கு வரேன் மாடிக்கு வந்து ஹாய் சொல்லு. Small little things where we can break away from this quarantine, we should be able to do it. But it should be done very safely, making sure if the house is so close, 5 feet, unga savarukku avarukku savarukku, don't do that. You need to have that safe distance. So making sure that all that is safe, most likely you will feel better when you do activities like that. And you pick up your book, even if you're going to do some work on your laptop or even watching a webinar. If you want, you can just go upstairs, sit, put a chair, a table, and then sit upstairs out in the open and do the same activity. Reading a book or watching this thing, you can do it automatically pannalame. Then you stand to say, you see the birds, you see the plants, you see the rustling of the leaves of the trees. All these things are inputs to the brain to make us more human.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You can try that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sir, can I ask?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
So you spoke about us young adults and children, but I know for a fact that my mother, as a teacher, she sits around 7 to 8 hours in front of the laptop because she has to make presentations and then she has to teach the class for 2 hours and then she again goes back to making presentations. So it's like the only time she actually comes out of the room or puts her laptop down is when she has to cook. And now even because during this lockdown, me being being very bored, I've been learning how to cook and all that. So I've literally taken over the kitchen.
You are bold, or the one who is willing to eat your cooking is bold. It all depends on how well you cook.
Sir, it's just that she doesn't. How do you make them? Even no matter how many times I tell her that she's not supposed to sit for so long, she has no choice but to do it because
She
that's
has
her
a
work.
choice. She has a choice. She has a daughter who is tech savvy, aren't you?
Yes.
Why don't you help her? Ma, give me this information. I'll collect all the information and keep it for you. Why don't you do a PowerPoint with just put in all the stuff that she wants, pick it up from the net and put it for her. So she needs to just rearrange it and then present it next day.
But sir, she's a computer science teacher and I have no idea how to use all that.
Okay, so that's an area you don't know. Okay, so we need to look for areas, for ways in which we can help her. Maybe look for somebody, her friend or your friend who is in that department can probably help out. If it's going to be a day in and day out activity, as you seem to suggest, every day preparing for the next day, and then it goes on and on every day for
Yes, sir. Yes.
that is actually not very good for her. Maybe if she's going to do this preparation every evening, probably night is time that it's quiet and she will probably be spending a lot of time getting the presentation ready, right?
Yes, she doesn't even sleep much nowadays. So
That is not good. I think there's some catch here. Either she has to plan, maybe she's taking on everybody's load, taking on the presentation that somebody else is going to do. நான் பண்ணி கொடுக்குறேன், it's okay, I know. And தேவையில்லாம எல்லாரோட இதையும் இழுத்து போடுறாங்களான்னு பாரு. See, she's overworking doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. It's not good at all.
now I'm just asking, how do I tell her? Because no matter how much I tell her, she looks at me as a small girl to her.
Maybe she needs a little bit of counseling from somebody. If not you, maybe your teacher, faculty, somebody could just or a family friend who could talk to her.
Okay.
Somebody needs to talk to her because probably she has not understood that it's a problem. Right? So she thinks this is normal. Every day I prepare like this, go to bed at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then I'm up in the morning. She may think it's normal. It is not. She'll really fall sick very soon, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And at least if she has some work in the night, make sure in the morning at least she goes for a walk or something. She gets clean, fresh air. Like I told your friend earlier, வெளியே போக முடியல மாடியிலேயாவது போய் காத்தோட்டமா ஒரு நடந்து கிடந்து சம்திங் even the same work that she's doing, she can do it up in the terrace, at least with the, communing with nature while the work is going on. இதெல்லாம் பண்ணலாம்.
Okay,
If
sir.
somebody is able to talk to her, I think we need to find out why she requires 6 hours of work every day on the computer. I don't think it is normal. Something is either she's too slow, therefore she's taking too long, which means somebody who is good in that department can help her finish it up faster.
Yes, sir.
Maybe that is the catch. Maybe she's so slow in getting doing it that she's taking longer. Maybe if there is somebody who knows, who's more tech savvy than her, can help her. You are not tech savvy. You told me that as far as this is concerned.
Yeah.
Find somebody else from the department who can help her out, your friends or whatever. Huh?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
That might help. That might help. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to hear very practical and real life issues. This is what happens. See how helpless we feel. You ask, what can I do? See, that's the problem. It starts off very innocently, very casually, but then once it becomes a problem, it becomes a big problem, not just for the person, but for the whole family, for the society, for everybody, isn't it? So yeah, so we need to wake up whenever we feel that somebody is spending a little too much time on this. Someone has to help him or her out of that before it becomes a major issue. Other questions? I think we'll stop with this. Thank you very much for listening very patiently.